Grateful to be here again, and man, that needs no further introduction. Joel,
Mhm.
so grateful to connect with you again, and uh, I look forward to a very fluid talk. Just want to go off the cuff with
Awesome.
this one and just be a bit fluid with it. Yeah, like how are things for you?
Yeah, brother.
Your talk with was it Alec? Yeah, it was
Alexei.
powerful, man. Very powerful talk.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Thank you. I'm glad you saw that. Really good to be with you again, man. Always love talking with you. Yeah, things are stronger than ever. I have a lot of people coming into my life that are just really profound stories, very advanced people, and very challenging stories, just sort of the extreme. It's just kind of a lot of heart opening to hear all that what people have gone through and what people are going through, and just being as sensitive as I am to it, I'm having to breathe through all these really powerful, rich stories, and it's just helping me to become more just aware of how rich life is and how magical of a transformation we're all going through. And I've just kind of unbinded from like my teachers. I'm more really allowing just what I have come to understand. So I'm kind of erasing my past as I move into the future. And um, it's just been an absolute honor. I live in a pretty altered state all the time. And now that I'm meeting with so many people, um, my dreaming's just being that much more impacted because I'm having to become more resilient and hold space for more and more energetics, and the wolf pack, the energy that builds in our courses has just become a really supportive system for so many people, and a lot of people are having a lot of breakthroughs in their life. So it just feels so good to be of service in that way, and to be offering a platform for people to heal. um, and I don't heal people, but I teach people how to heal themselves. And a lot of courageous souls showing up and being willing to be authentic and vulnerable and share with us in our courses what they're going through. And that just opens everyone's hearts and makes it possible to get out of our minds and more into our feelings. And that's really the whole point of this, is to tap the nonlinear feeling realms. That's where the lucidity is in pure feeling.
Mm.
So really strong times.
Amazing, man. I'm so glad that it's you're finding your groove, so to speak, and riding the wave. It's powerful when you're able to hold space for others and be able to generate more energy as well, because it's you are working with
Yeah.
people's energies, and yeah, very
Yeah. So
powerful.
I go, what I go through prior to each class, it's like I'm being prepared, and being spirit is guiding me through really difficult things as a means to be able to hold more and more space. So it's like I'm getting the benefit of all of this as much as anyone else is, because it's all just there's no separation. It's not like I'm the teacher and they're the students. They're just as much the teachers as I am the student. I show up as a beginner, and recommend everyone do the same. That we're all novices, and by not trying to copy something of the past, just be intuitive as to what's wanting to come forward now. And that talk with Alex Zek was really powerful in that, yeah, it was just a unique, to be in person makes a big difference, right? To fly out to
Mm.
Austin, to sit down with him, to talk for a while, and then enter into that conversation. It makes a significant energetic shift, because him and I are doing something different than what can happen between these screens.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm.
so I appreciated that, and his questions and his space, his capacity to really interview people is phenomenal.
Mm.
So it's really cool to have made that bridge with that community. And then I just got back from the Archaics Virginia Beach meetup about a week ago, and met so many amazing people from that community once again. Because I met a lot of people in the San Diego event a year ago, but yeah, to have all these new people, and conversations, and um, more and more people are joining the courses. So it's just the human mass effect. It starts to create a really powerful shift for all of us.
Mhm. That's beautiful. That's really beautiful. Yeah, I mean, what's been coming up for me lately as well is 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 this theme about the heart and the power of the heart. And as you know, the heart is an anagram for Earth, and
Yeah.
we are living on her, and she has a very deep, profound relationship to us. Um, how did you find your path of heart, and what how was that process for you?
Yeah, I think, I was offered to be the predecessor of the elder that I was training with in New Mexico, and I was really following someone, and I was losing myself in the process. And when he asked me to be his predecessor, I kind of had to go away into the mountains, and I was a pipe carrier, and I took my pipe into the mountains, and I did ceremony as a means to make a decision. And I was really wanting to. I had been out resourcing my power my whole life to shamans and teachers and people that I considered to be, more advanced or more aware. And in that moment of doing that ceremony and asking myself, I really discovered my heart. My heart said no. It said to say no. And it was a real moment with the earth where I was given permission to walk away from something that was so seductive and enticing and had so many lures associated and so many ancestral dynamics that were, it was kind of like a spiritual warfare kind of maneuver that was playing out, and I was being pulled on energetically to fulfill a role that would have just destroyed me, and I would have become part of something destructive instead of something creative. So in that moment, I really turned to the earth and to the body of knowledge that Castaneda left, because I just realized that all these elders I was looking to, they were avoiding the most potent reflection pieces within the Castaneda material, because it's very confronting what Castaneda revealed and what Carol Tiggs explains when you're in her presence. Um, and so, yeah, I ended up living in the mountains after that, alone in a tent, and became. I'd get up in the middle of the night and walk around, and I had this incredible wilderness to myself. I was the only person living out there, and I learned how to pray without anyone teaching me. I just learned how to say thank you in a way that opened up my spirit to the source. And so it was really the mountains, spirit of the mountains, Castaneda material became my way of healing. And I'd already used the Castaneda material significantly, but I sort of used it in a much more heart-based way from then on out. And it led me to training with a medicine woman, and who was helping me to make that decision to say no, because those worlds had overlapped. But I felt called to a path of service, not to not like my teachers who were healers and trying and not willing to heal themselves or were healing everyone else, but I felt called to really explore the Toltec knowledge base as a means, knowing that it would be needed in the future as the veil lifts. There would be understandings that I could contribute to what's going on. And so to me, knowledge is we have a opportunity to have a romance with knowledge. And it forces you to look at some really disturbing aspects of the dysfunction of how we interact with people, and come to terms with some energetic dynamics that, you know, um, require some aloneness. So I did spend a lot of time alone. And as my teacher said, if it's not a yes, it's a no. And so I was being offered community and support and connection, but it was always a no. I didn't feel I fit in with anyone. And I followed that for a long time, and I stayed alone, and it led to some really beautiful people showing up in my life. And I think that's kind of sometimes we're tested like that. Yeah, it feels unsafe to be alone, but when you're getting strongly that you don't fit with certain groups, and you have to be patient and stay in your aloneness until something's presented to you that is a fit for you. So yeah, just being on a path of heart is essentially a path of knowledge. It's a romance with knowledge. It's a relationship to the earth and the sun. They're both conscious creatures that communicate directly in the most magical ways. And our ability to silence our being is what makes it possible to receive that support. And it's very healing and very beautiful, but it's also very sad at times to be opened up that much and to not relate to people. Uh, you start to feel the loneliness in your capacity to interact with the abstract. Um, but then, I'm meeting more and more people who are doing the same. And so I feel less and less alone in it. So it's a real homecoming.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, it can be a very lonely path when you're walking a path that not, most others dare not walk, because of their programming or their fears or whatever have you, and so grateful that you chose that path of heart and that you gained knowledge from it. And I think knowledge, is ultimately wisdom when it's put into practice. And I can see that you're doing that in your actions and everything that you represent. And I'm really grateful to witness that as well and see it. Um,
Mm. Thank
uh,
you.
Something that's been really from the days of Santos Bonacci, let's say, and because that's where my journey with you started. And Santos has had a bit of quite an influence on me as well, especially when it came to diet and food.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as you know, he's an advocate for veganism,
Yeah.
and it's been a theme that's been constantly. I've been wrestling with it in the past sort of 6 months. I did go into a vegan diet for a while and predominantly an alkaline diet, and I felt amazing for the first, let's say, 6 months to a year. Then I started plateauing, and the energy started really were working against me. I started to feel a lot more down, and then I changed it up. I started introducing eggs and dairy and other bits of food that wasn't part of the vegan regimen. And
Yeah.
that was great, and that's been serving me as well. But I feel like I'm starting to plateau again. And the thing that's been coming up for me, Joel, is the role of the predator,
Mm.
because the act of killing an animal and eating an animal is a predatorial aspect, I
Yeah.
feel. And when we talk about the fly as being the top of the food chain and us being here as, you know, how do you see the I don't want to go into right and wrongs, but how do you see that? Because I know you're going into the carnivore diet, and that's been very healing for you. And I've
Yeah.
been kind of like trying to brave into going into that, but I'm still struggling because of the moral and ethical things that you get thrown at into the programming. Uh, and yeah, how do you see the role of the predator? And is there a predator within us that we have to honor?
Yeah, man. A powerful question. I do think that we're designed to eat animals, that our organs developed for hundreds of thousands of years by uh being nomadic. And the only way in the winter would be to eat large animals. And that we purify, like whether we were designed to eat that way or not, that's how we've evolved. And so to make the change, to try to go back to something in one lifetime, to go back to maybe an original way we were designed with like gorillas or something, where we ate fruit maybe at one point. It's just too much in one lifetime to try to go and resolve these years of animal protein being needed as how we develop. So the acid in our I used to defend frugivores and try to convince people otherwise, and now I realize that I don't think that was accurate at all. I think even fasting and stuff, I'm starting to realize it's just your body. It thinks that you're in a situation where you don't have food, so it's just kicking in its reserves. And you don't necessarily want to tap your reserves. You might want to save those for when you need them. And so, ultimately, sorcery is a magical process in which one can thrive in any situation. So I'm not saying one needs to eat meat necessarily. Um, but when I stopped resisting what my body was telling me, when I eat meat and my eyes roll in the back of my head, it's just absolutely what my body wants and needs. And giving it the strongest source of meat that I can, the most balanced of fat and protein. And I think it doesn't work unless you get that figured out. Like these lean meats and stuff, they don't really do much. They just make a waste of you're eating empty anything that doesn't have the ultimate optimal vitamins within it. So I don't think we're meant to eat vegetables. I don't think we're meant to eat grains. I think those are seeds. We're not meant to eat seeds. And they all have defense chemicals that we're not meant to digest. And that when an animal eats those things, it alchemizes it for us. And so when we eat the animal, we don't get any of the poisons. And so I think it's a symbiotic relationship. And Toltecs seek, to hunt an animal and preserve that jerky, and that animal will present itself as a sacrifice to that warrior, so that those two beings become one. When you eat an animal, you're taking on its power,
Mm.
right? And so this is a world of power, and we need power. And in order to go out into the abyss and deal with all the different types of energetic challenges that come, one needs to be in an optimal state of energetic and physical awareness. And the only way to be in an optimal state, I believe, is to yeah, cut out vegetables and grains. And eventually, I think you can eat meat and fruit, but even fruit ferments so different, and different types of fruits aren't good for you. And if they're not ripe, it's really bad for you.
Mm.
So I standard American diet of mixing all these foods is the bad food combining is the most difficult thing. And so our bodies we just put it through so much stress and difficulty trying to get it to do all this work, when in reality, if you just eat one large steak a day and balance that with electrolytes, because you're going to push a lot of minerals out of your body along with all the poison that's going to come out of your body when you're carnivore, because
Mm.
it's a massive detox. So I love Santos, but I think he's dying from not eating meat because his body needs meat, and his philosophy is killing him. It's a spiritual concept that's totally inaccurate. And I think we're just such powerful people that the power of our perception has made it possible for us to go against our nature for a long time, but
Mm.
it's all spiritual. It's like a program, that's keeping us from our power. And so I don't think there's a negativity to the predator aspect of our being. I think we're in the perfect environment to evolve. And if there wasn't something higher on the food chain, we wouldn't be able to evolve. It's part of it.
Mm.
It's not an So even though the flyers are, in a sense, a disturbing thing to come to terms with how they function, it doesn't make it a negative. It's like realizing, that this whole thing is an illusion. Um, so even people, like, they get really offended at that I'll eat steak at a restaurant, even though it's not grass fed and it didn't go through the appropriate, it wasn't the right farm or this or that. And I get it, but the ruminant animals, they are so powerful, that all that poison that they're given and the way they're treated and everything, it doesn't reach us. They purify it through their process.
Mm.
I'm not saying obviously it'd be ideal to be eating from a farm or a ranch that was doing a very beautiful holistic process with the way in which they raised animals, but it doesn't have that big of an effect on us as one would think. It's ultimately just um, yeah, the energy that's needed.
Mm. What do you think about the idea of uh, geographical and seasonal eating? I know that we live in a modern age now, like being here in London, but it's in the north part of Europe. It can get very cold in the winters, and there's only types of certain types of foods that get grown here, as you know. But in cities and urbanized, we get all this amalgamation of all these different fruits from parts of the world that really don't belong naturally to the land you're actually living in and the environment that you're living in. Do you see that as also a factor that affects health and energy?
Well, yeah, I mean, the more disconnected we get from nature, the more it's going to affect our nervous system and the way in which the food is grown. And like a banana isn't what a banana used to be. It's this just sugary new creation that came from man. Or with all the war that goes on over these fruits in different parts of the world and all the money that's being made. And that's why the carnivore diet is such a threat to the matrix. There's so much money to be made moving food all around the world, and most of it's not necessary foods,
Mm.
right? So you can have your cow on your land, and I mean, it's so like ranchers that didn't know any better have been carnivore their whole life, and they're just like thriving because they were just in a direct relationship to their food source, and they weren't, you go into a grocery store, there's really nothing there for me. There's nothing to buy, I mean, it's all just an attempt to reduce us down to something that is easily to control. So we've been domesticated. The flyers are the ones that convinced us to grow gardens and to become civilized, to build buildings and to stop moving. We were nomadic, powerful travelers, not just in dream worlds, but in this realm. And the winter was time of purification. You would eat some fruit, but mostly meat. And then during the summer and spring, you might eat some vegetables and some grains if you were in a civilized sort of scenario. But your body would repair from that, from those oxalates and those poisons that your body, because the plant can't run away, so it has a poison that it produces, and then we eat that poison. But if you're given the winter for purification, because you're nomadic during the winter or because there's only meat to eat, then your body repairs itself. So,
Mm.
yeah, I think, the people that I know that are deep, deep, deep into the carnivore diet, they're regenerating, they're healing their energy. I mean, they're healing their injuries, they're healing their full four stage cancers. People are just repairing themselves completely. But it is dangerous to do aggressively or too quickly. So you need like a 6 to 8 week transition because all the different parasites and stuff, they panic and do different things and they sequester themselves into areas. So you want to know what you're doing and work with somebody ideally when you transition.
Mm. What would you say to people who have healed themselves using like the raw vegan diet, for example? Because I know some
Well,
people have actually healed type 2 diabetes using those methods and um
yeah,
yeah.
when you get off the standard American diet, you're going to have real benefits. So
Mm.
vegan is better than eating meat, vegetables, and grains. Those food combinations are not good for us. So getting on vegan is great in comparison to just eating a whatever,
Yep.
right? But there's about a 5 year window in which that can be helpful. Start getting past 5 years and you're in dangerous territory now because your body is designed, in my opinion, to be carnivore. And therefore you're going so far away from that ancestral diet that you're just asking for seriously ungrounded to get really ungrounded, right?
Mm.
And it was fun. I loved being that high, just living off fruit. It's an incredible, almost like kind of idealistic state of perception, and you get all these insights, and I was getting a break from the grains, and so of course it felt good. But
Mm.
ultimately, yeah, when yeah, the reason you try to force little kids to eat vegetables, and they don't want them. Their body's rejecting it because it's bitter.
Mm.
So I think we're meant to eat things that our body wants, not things that just fill us, like rice and corn and grains. All that stuff is empty calories. So you just keep shoving it in your mouth because you're not getting what you need from it.
Mm,
You're eating that stuff, you're just taking the place of what the meat would be doing, and now you're all full and you didn't really get what you needed, and then the digestion challenges that come with all the different way food ferments in our body and stuff. It's just so yeah, it's I'm not saying you won't get benefits from being vegan. It's just that at some point it's going to backfire, and it's going to backfire really bad.
mm. Yeah, it seems like the long-term effects of it does have a negative effect on the body. Um,
Yep.
I've experienced that, you know, and to those, I mean, I used to think, oh yes, vegan and killing animals is wrong, but the thing is, I've been in states, in certain states, say taking mushrooms or whatever, um, where I've communicated with trees and I've communicated with plants. So it's not as if
Yeah.
like animals are the only sentient beings around. The plants are sentient, the trees are sentient.
Yes.
So
Yes.
no vegan will scoff at chopping a tree down. Well, not chopping a tree, but say like, taking a plant out and eating it without even thinking twice about it.
Yep.
Um,
Really.
Yet when it comes to animals, it's fine, like, oh, you can't eat animals because you're killing a sentient being and the plant isn't sentient. So that to me is a bit of hypocrisy, really, that I've only started to really realize more recently. And hence asking these questions and why I'm questioning why I'm eating the way I'm eating. Um,
That's awesome, man. Yeah,
yeah,
it's just it's another version of how things have been flipped and spiritualized and projected. But yeah, plants are conscious creatures, not any more or less than an animal. And even stones and the earth is conscious, and everything is,
mm,
and it's just a matter of realizing that and then coming out of these spiritual constructs around how things are supposed to be, right and wrong, good and bad. Um, Man, we're under such deep levels of hypnosis, uh, that anything that has morals or religious dogma to it whatsoever is a trap. It's a program.
I agree. I agree. I've been noticing that more and more, especially if you've come from that sort of background and that programming. As someone like Santos has, or even myself, like there's always this moral and dogma. The morals are the dogma, really. It becomes very rigid, and that rigidity starts to affect your body, and not only just your body, but your spirit and your energy.
Yeah,
And yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think it's really important to talk about these things, because some people don't like to talk about these
I do
things. They get
too.
very personal and they get very triggered because of their belief systems. And you know, I like as I said, I've been vegan. I've been raw vegan even, and I've now vegetarian. But I feel like I need to start transitioning into meat, and this is why I wanted to speak about it because many people are so hung up on it, it's the one it's only this answer and that's it. And I'm starting to see more and more as part of the programming.
Well, and it's I think it's important too because the lab grown meat agenda to try to take away natural meat and replace it with artificial meat. I mean, that's really wicked, it's it's an intense thing to come to terms with, so that the more people start advocating for the need to have cows and steak and the most efficient energetic resource, then it'll be that much harder for these control systems to switch over, and so there's this massive awakening around this for a reason. Um, and doctors are getting exposed left and right, and that's what we need. We need to keep pushing in that respect, is be honest about the way in which the inversion operates and do our best to deter that intent.
Yep. Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Um, speaking of predator in the Castaneda material, Don Juan talks about the eagle and
Yeah.
the um the concept or the idea of darting past the eagle. Is that right? Darting is the word, or leaping past the eagle. Can't remember the exact word usage there, but because that this eagle obviously devours your, if you haven't done the work and you're not on that path of uh, so to speak, of working through the energetics, you're devoured by this eagle because you become, prey to it ultimately. Um, so. Yeah,
Yeah.
what's your view on that? And uh, since we're talking about the predatory nature of things, and can we liken this eagle to the demiurge or the all these all ancient concepts of this sort of AI that's recycling people back into this construct or this dream,
Mm.
so to speak? Are we in a loop? And is that what's causing the loop because we're not doing that work?
Mm. Powerful question, man. Yeah, the eagle's gift is a when this force grants you passage, right? And that's not always, it's not always required that you recapitulate every moment of your life in order to receive that gift. It is given to some almost seemingly random, where people are ushered into the third attention and they get to keep their awareness and glide into eternity and bounce from vision to vision for as long as the earth is alive. And so I don't look at it as a predator. I look at it as a gift. The most important thing that we could obtain is freedom, and it offers that to us. But it does so uh, based on an energetic process that one must come to terms with. So the eagle is an extension of the dark sea of awareness, and the dark sea of awareness bestows awareness upon us, and then it consumes our awareness at death as a means to gain more experience. We are extensions of it. And so it projects us into dreamscapes in order to gain experience, wisdom, knowledge, and ideas, to
Mhm.
experience brand new feelings, to explore. That's why Don Juan said to be of your time rather than try to be of the past. Because everything is the spirit is receding, everything is changing always. And so the eagle isn't really an eagle. It just has the appearance of looking like a jet black eagle to those that encounter it or observe it. And something that appears to be like a beak is where it seems to spread out. It takes when a person dies, it like spreads it out and like devours its awareness. But it's the very thing that bestowed the awareness to begin with.
Mm.
And so we are in some sort of conditioning that, is a like a pressure that creates diamonds, really. It's warriors are a product of this very difficult situation that we're in. And
Mm.
so shamans spend their lives fine tuning their awareness. And so they can't accept the idea that they would die like a normal death, like an average person that didn't do anything with their awareness. It's not acceptable to them. So they become extremely focused and make it their total and complete purpose to move past the eagle, to tiptoe past the eagle is what they refer to it as. And so it's like it's ninja training. We have to become stealth. We have to become nothing, right? It's like it for the Chinese, like to enter the eye of the dragon, right? There's a passageway, and all the different masters of those other systems talk about it in metaphorical ways, but it's really the same opportunity that we can become nothing and everything, and and rather than put ourselves below or above, we become one. We merge. Um, so I do think people that are of service often are given passage without having to recapitulate. But shamans don't take that risk.
Mm.
They don't want to risk anything whatsoever, so they recapitulate their lives regardless. And even people that recapitulate their lives don't always complete the process enough to be granted passage. It's a deep, deep level of purification, and it's so fucking intense
Mm.
to be able to have access to all of your memories. They would overwhelm you. They would spill over. You would become super spun out, and your parallel lives would start overlapping. This is a very difficult and slow path, especially without having a Don Juan or somebody to, you know, trick you or uh, lend you their dreaming energy for you to experience these things and then force you to gain your own, like Carlos was. So it's not something to, I think, take lightly or compare to other religions. It's a very unique perspective and it's very meaningful. The
Mm.
Toltecs say the bird of freedom will someday come. And if you're not ready, it doesn't wait. And so this place is an illusion, and there's incredible support for those that are preparing themselves to be ushered into other layers of the onion and to be freed from this deception. It doesn't mean you don't come back, but if you're taken into other layers of the onion and learn how to walk in and out of other worlds, then this place just is paradise and it becomes a platform for travel rather than, a soul trap. There's no soul trap because there's solutions. If it was a trap, there would be no way. It's just an obstacle course.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned that this whole concept of soul trap. So many people fall into that, especially
Yeah.
in the truther movement. You see so many people buying into the soul trap concept, and I don't buy it at all. I think it's part of the programming as well. The thing is, people don't realize who are truthers, right? They don't realize how deep the programming is and
Yeah.
how multi-layered it is to break
Yeah.
free of that MK Ultra that's been done to all of us really. Um,
Yeah.
and uncovering this knowledge and what the Toltecs have done, uh, especially now that we don't have the Don Juans, and I I I almost feel like the Castaneda's books. I feel like this is just my view on it and my opinion, but I feel like as if Don Juan, in a way, used his denseness in a way to get the information out to the world. So for me, I think it was written by Don Juan more than it was written by Castaneda, personally. But that's just my opinion on it. Um,
No, I agree, man. It's Don Juan was masterful in what he did to all of his apprentices, and he was very aware and could see into the future and how different things would play out as long as he, set it up that way. And
yeah.
yeah, when Don Juan realized that Carlos was not able to, he wasn't the man for the job to continue the lineage, then he realized he was the man for the job to discontinue the lineage, to close the door, and to disseminate the knowledge. And now that knowledge is being shared all over the world. At first, all the people that were into Castaneda just completely were just so extreme. It just became so culty, and he just had followers and was disgusted, and it just went through a really difficult process. But now we're in a time where this knowledge is so necessary, and where there's a lot of warriors that are coming into my life, and I just so thankful that Don Juan was, yeah, I feel Don Juan's energetic support, not only in my life but in other people I'm working with, and he was very masterful and aware. uh, so there's a lot of nonsense out there. People are trying to say he didn't exist and Carlos made it up, and or there's a woman saying that it was a 13-year-old boy that wrote these books and that she's training with the real Carlos Castaneda. And there's just so many
Wow.
lies, but it's just because it's such a powerful thing that people can't help but they're like Agent Smiths. They don't realize they're being used, but they're just muddying the waters because that keeps, it kind of keeps it at bay. But that's how the occult knowledge is, and this is very occulted knowledge. It's hidden. Not everyone can read the Castaneda books and understand it. It has to move your perception to a place in which it's shown to you energetically.
Mm. That's powerful, man. That's powerful. Yeah, I agree. It's so many layers. Every time I revisit the books, there's another layer that's revealed to me that I didn't get the first time or even the second or third time on the reading. So it's so multi-layered and
Totally.
it's very profound. Um, I also wanted to ask you, going back to people like especially in the West, the movement for plant medicines, namely the ayahuasca, because recently I just came back 2 days ago from a Hape circle working with Hape, which can be
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
energetically powerful because the mapacho tobacco, it has a profound effect when you're taking it up the nostrils and working with it energetically. Um, a lot of healing can take place and a lot of purging. I can see shifts in people. Uh, Also for me, I don't work with it that much, but because the tribes, the Hunniquin came from Brazil, I sat with
Mm.
them and met the Page there, and you can see in their eyes there's an innocence about them. There is a sort of
Cool.
purity in their eyes, and you can see they're so connected with spirit. Uh,
Mm.
and you can hear it in their songs. You can hear it in their way their intent is the way they hold themselves. Um, Obviously, there's many sort of faux medicine circles, but I know that we can reach these states through sobriety. But some people, Joel, are really dense, and I say
Yeah.
that with the utmost respect because I'm one of those dense people. Only because uh, I've had a lot of trauma, and people who've had
Mm.
heavy, heavy traumas. There's different layers, there's different levels of trauma, and some people have had really heavy traumas. Their shields can be their armor can be so strong that it's very hard to break through. And sometimes I feel like Mother Earth, the Earth Mother, has put these medicines there for people to break free. Uh, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree. I think even the Toltecs say that they may, for their ultimate, when they burn with the fire from within, they're open to using power plants at the last moment, as a means to ensure that they make the crossing, that they tiptoe past the eagle. Because with the power plants will inform you how to be energetically, you know, shamans walk through walls and use power plants to discover their non-physical self. The Toltec's knowledge base comes from power plants. That's how they discovered everything. But they realized that it's entrapping and dangerous to rely on them, and that we need to create a system that is going to create the same results without damaging the energy body. So it's a high risk, high reward. And I agree, the hypnosis is so strong with some, the density is so profound that there's very unlikely an event that's going to mimic or have the similar effect as a power plant. Maybe a car accident,
Mm,
maybe, you know, a type of de-armoring in a tantra community or something where you're going deep into like trauma and stuff and move on to the other side of any sexual abuse that occurred. Like there's breath work. I mean, you can get there without the medicines, but is it likely to work? And I'm talking to people that are doing 33 grams of mushrooms in one
oh
sitting
wow.
now and just doing with everything all at once. It's like, okay, well, I mean, we're very powerful creatures, so we can handle certain transformations and um
Mm,
but the mental ward is filled with people that should have been some of the greatest travelers, and but we want to be careful and be realistic as to when, and rather than like get in a mindset around things we need to almost be letting our body tell us. Um, so
Mm.
I'm not afraid. I'm open to doing plant medicine, power plants and stuff in the future. And but at the same time, I'm listening each day and I'm realizing, that the greatest thing I can offer is a way to reach these states without having to use anything. And so that's what my courses are about.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Yeah. It's yeah, I mean there's no one size fits all. And to be honest, like a lot of people are very sensitive. I've met along the way are very sensitive to plant medicines, and they
Yeah.
they can open up in ways that are very horrific for them and very traumatic. So you've got to be the right fit for these things, and you've got to work with people that are, experienced, especially tribes that live in Brazil in the jungle don't have the programs really that we have here in the West. And they know how to work with spirit and work with the spirit of those plants. So it's really
Yep.
important to find the right wisdom keepers that know how to work with it, not just anybody just giving you these plants and thinking that they're the shamans and so on, and egos
Yeah.
and so on. Yeah, that's beautiful.
And well, and the Sangomos in South Africa, they don't necessarily use intense plant medicine. They use alcohol and cannabis, and you have to keep taking it into your body without stopping. And but you're dancing and trance dancing for days, so you're transmuting the alcohol, and
Right.
that's how you discover the secret of the assemblage point, that it's all an illusion. As long as you understand how to alchemize poison, then you discover the secret of the assemblage point. So, some shamans just get their students drunk and start teaching them from this place where they don't have any shields, and get them to admit to their desires. That liquid courage can be. So people have this negative view on things. They say, "Oh, those are spirits and stuff." Well, yeah, but we have spirits all around us. It's just a matter of what are you attracting? What kind of spirits? How are you going to program that that glass of wine before you drink it? Are you going to, oh, this is poison and it's going to make me, I'm contributing to this unconsciousness by drinking this substance that's controlling. No, you give it love and bless it, and you go on a journey with that medicine. And I get higher on alcohol than I do on mushrooms because I learned how to travel with it and use it as a powerful tool.
Mm.
I'm not saying that I am without challenges in my substances, but I'm just pointing out that that we create our own limitations based on a lot of spiritual projections. So there's a lot of freedom in not knowing what you're going to do in each moment and following your intuition. You can turn any day or night or moment into straight magic as long as you don't have any rules that you live by.
Interesting how the words intent and intuition are very closely similar.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
yeah, I mean it
Yeah,
comes. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, intent is it's a mysterious force that people think they've accessed, but unless they understand that the mysterious nature of intent, and that's where the intuition lies, is yeah, intent is not something that you can copy or learn. Shamans go on adventures in order to gain a relationship with intent, which they call spirit. And spirit will not just be it's not available to many. It's very few people that actually understand intent. Um, it's an experience, and then your intuition becomes everything.
Hmm. It's interesting as well that I've been coming across these decoders. I think you know who I'm going to be talking about now, but there is something that I've noticed about decoding, and when you get into numbers and you get into all this sort of decoding stuff, and almost like a
Yeah.
scientist trying to figure out what the meanings are behind these codes, right? That these patterns you're recognizing.
Yeah.
through this decoding process. And I feel because this this realm, this reality that we're experiencing is very deceptive. I feel like it's the most sophisticated, deceptive realm you could ever be in, and it's very tricky to navigate. And when I get into the sort of decoding, because I went through that for a while, and
Mm.
I feel like it's almost showing you what you're looking for anyway, rather than what the truth is of what the code is and what it's revealing to you. And some people have themselves convinced that by having children, you're going to go back and into the cycle because you know you had kids. And what do you think of that? What do you think of things like that? And people kind of coming to these conclusions about, you know, having children and so on.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Toltecs agree with that, that typically, if you're having children, then you're not gonna, you know, be here for you're sacrificing a chunk of your energy as a means to which is a beautiful gift to give, but it is a sacrifice that you're making. It makes it much more unlikely that you would move beyond this place because you basically created an attachment to this place, right? To there's no detaching from your children in a healthy way. That would be just like cruel, like it's so there's a humanness, I think, that's beautiful to this place, and I'm not trying to avoid it. I think the Toltecs got spun out and that we need a totally different method going forward. And I think people that are having children and doing this work is are going to have a huge effect on changing the way in which this stuff operates. And so yeah, the Russian dreamers I talked to have found ways to sort of balance this dance of being a parent and a warrior and being
Mm,
able to do both. There's places, energetic places you can go and sort of patch up any holes in your cocoon that may have developed because of that exchange, or you might have holes in your cocoon from a partner that drained you. Uh, it's just a matter of being honest about how energy works and being able to patch up those holes. When you have a kid at a certain age, they grow up and become their own person, and that energy that you lent to them is returned to you to a degree. You'll still always be energetically bonded and have the luminosity dynamic. As far as the decoding, I think the rabbit holes are just as entrapping as the inversion itself. Everything's designed to ensnare our attention on some level, and that the construct is just that. It's an absolute distraction from what we really are. And so all these truthers they have no idea. They don't read the Castaneda material because it would reveal that all of, even though everything's already happened and we're inside of a memory and it's all decodable, that's just a construct. Within the construct is a dream. Like the construct is within a dream,
mm,
and the dream we're so lucky we're in a vision and a dream, and it's not just this physical prison or whatever. Like this is just a magical realm that's we've been tricked into perceiving it in a certain way. And so if you could stop your thoughts, which most decoders can't, right? Because they're so focused on decoding, right? They're doers. And I talked about this at Virginia Beach. Jason's a doer and I'm a not doer.
mm,
That's okay. We complement each other. I'm glad he's pulling people out of hypnosis in the way that he is, right? But eventually some of those people are going to come to me and go into a different, like there's just different stages of hypnosis to come out of. And so yeah, when you put your attention into something, you are creating it because we are creators. And so that's why Hollywood and everything functions the way it does, is it gives us inception, and it creates inception so that we create realities based on how we're being geared emotionally. It's
mm,
very well done and very sorcery based. And so there's the secret. is in realizing that our attention determines reality. If we could reclaim our dreaming attention, the most incredible healing begins to happen. Your emotional healing occurs because you're giving the attention to the appropriate areas in which it's needed rather than outsourcing your power through just watching the news or whatever it is that might overwhelm your senses. So, and I'm okay with distraction. I don't think people need to not enjoy or watch or observe or tap into these things. It's just knowing and understanding what's happening and giving yourself permission to have the total experience.
Mm. Yeah, it's very important not to fall into these traps. Especially Dakota, the analytical mind can really take over
Yeah.
and deceive you and take away your energy as well. So much time is spent on decoding it, it becomes an obsession. I don't think it's healthy personally. And yeah, thank you for
Mm.
sharing that, and thank you for speaking to that because it's something that's been on my mind. And yeah, I resonate with what you say there. Uh, there is so much, still so many layers to unfold, and I feel like uh, that we've come to a sort of place of revealing at this time, especially with the Toltecs. And I don't know about you, Joel. Do you feel these ancient Toltecs and the Toltec lineage? Do you think they figured it all out? Do you think they just had the complete system? What's your
Mm.
view on that?
Man, it's been quite the process, right? So, these very daring beings discovered through power plants, the interdimensional beings that we coexist with, and they formed relationships with these beings, and and they became codependent relationships. They became very complex. So the old sorcerers fell into the pitfalls of power, and they got really lost, and they became obsessed. But yeah, they figured out the details of how this dream place operates. They became very powerful and they started controlling people with that power. And that's still going on to this day.
Wow. So
So
yeah, you think the elite are part of those people that also receive that knowledge?
yeah, it's the reason this land was that Europe came to try to destroy the shamans here was to make sure that they, didn't have anyone that could expose them eventually through dreaming. Right. So
Mm.
there's different versions, different sorcery lineages, and some of them are mixed and different beings that know each other through dreams, or there's death defiers, there's people that have been around here for thousands of years. Even the death defier in the books is essentially a vampiric person that was forcing the walls to lend him energy in order or he would turn them into the witch hunters. Because back then witch hunting was real,
Mm.
and that can come back. Like if things swing to the hard Christian right and everything's like religious and hardcore, and anything that goes against, a standard religion becomes satanic or whatever, and then the witch hunts begin again for anybody that's practicing anything that isn't religious. We don't know. It's a freaky world we're in. It's very interesting in the way it plays out. But the new seers, if you really read the Castaneda material, they discovered the rule of the Nawal and how these sorcerer parties function, and that the whole point of this knowledge path is to ensure that knowledge continues. So those of us that are carrying this awareness or our torch, we're carrying a torch of like fire. We're keeping the fire alive, and it's very guided and supported. There's a ton, forces rise to meet each other. So even though there's pressure to not do this work, there's great support for those that do. But the new seers, yeah, they really unlocked. They're the learned ones, the scientists of energy, the ones that learn to travel to observe energy in teams, groups of seers, uh, learn to validate what happens during conception, what happens during death, how energy works, what we're made of, our relationship to plants and animals, and how inorganic beings are related to plants and animals, and how our relationship with inorganic beings determines our future. So the Toltecs discovered one very difficult fact is that they needed to borrow energy from the inorganic beings in order to free themselves from this realm. And it takes the utmost discipline to go in and borrow that energy without getting trapped, especially for men. Women can't be trapped in those worlds, but they can be convinced uh, of things. So we're in a really tricky situation. We've been outmaneuvered by inorganic beings that are been alive for a lot longer than us, and we don't have any choice but to learn from them,
Mm.
um, because they have unlocked the secrets of dreaming, and dreaming is the secret that's missing. It's the portal that makes it possible for us to become travelers again. What Carlos figured out how to do in dreaming is unprecedented. He went even beyond Don Juan and all of his teachers, the predecessors of his path. So trying to keep up with Carlos or do what he did in the books is not necessarily where it's at. It's more like discovering your own capacity to become lucid and how to explore the dreaming gates curiously. And I focus more on just the heightened awareness of being on that like mushroom like state all the time without having to take anything during my awake hours. That's where I'm cultivating myself the most. But I do plan on exploring what Carlos explored,
Mm.
when I'm very, very sober in my perspective, and I've become very mature because he made terrible decisions, and they had to go into the inorganic world and pull his dead corpse out and blow life back into him, um, because he got tricked by very deceitful beings, who exist in these other layers of the onion that pull on your weaknesses. They observe you. We're being observed every moment of our life. We're
Mm.
not. We're never. We just can't see these beings. They can see us, and so we're at a disadvantage. And in a way, we're protected by that. If we see them, we'd all be in mental wards, and it'd be totally chaos, right? So the shields are necessary until they're no longer, uh, until one is prepared to remove their shields consciously. And so, yeah, they are part of something that is connected to the earth. And so the secrets of the earth, which are infinite, is something that the Toltecs have seemingly the most understanding of. But there's other systems out there besides Toltec, other
Mm.
Native American groups that have unique understandings and relationships with other beings from other worlds. And so, like my elder had what he calls allies, and and they were very strange and powerful beings that would assist him in his dreaming. I have allies as well. It's just something that it's not necessary, but you do end up having to come to terms with these interdimensional beings as part of becoming aware. Um, there's no avoiding it. At death, everything's revealed, and we need to have these things revealed prior to our death if we want to have a shamanic death in which we're, able to truly make use of this place. Um, so even though the Toltecs have covered the gamut, they're still it's still evolutionary, right? It's still alive. And what I will say though is they created during a time they foresaw what was coming, and they were very powerful beings. And so they created what they call a coil of intent. It's an electrical coil in which they left their intent, and anyone that practices the Toltec dreaming arts can gain access to that electrical coil. And when you have access to that coil, it'll assist you in developing unbending intent. And then it's just a matter of time before you become aware of energy and able to see energy become energy.
Mm.
As long as you don't retreat, that coil of intent will guide you. So it's a non-linear energy you can tap into. And in that respect, I think it's just a matter of, yeah, who has the courage to stand on the shoulders of these giants, and rather
Mm.
than try to reinvent the wheel, we might as well accept the support that's being offered because it's just, in my opinion, it's pure.
Yeah, I think you nailed it there about the linear aspect
Yeah.
of how we've been told time is. And time is an invention, as you know. And if you're talking about this coil that the Toltecs left for us, well, that coil exists right now, and those Toltecs are there right now, and we have access to it right now. And maybe we are maybe a, a sort of projection of those Toltecs in the future. We are now in the future, and they're in the past, and maybe there is a connection between us and them. Maybe we are them. I don't know, but you know, that's very possible, isn't it?
Of course, yeah, yeah. It's all non-linear. The linear is just it's like a that is the predator, is the linear in a sense, because there's like an unnatural tick tock that's happening at our upper chakra, and shamans heal that. They get that vortex to spin naturally eventually and remove, that interference. It's called, losing the human form. Your energy body straightens out, and it's fucking intense. You're gonna have convulsions and spasms, and you're gonna feel like you're dying, and all these things will happen to you. And the transformation is not meant to go quickly. It's a very, very delicate, slow, lifetime process. But yeah, absolutely, those shamans are available to tap into and communicate with. They're alive in the nonlinear, and that coil of intent is available to anyone.
Beautiful. Um,
Mm.
I think on that optimistic note, I think it's a good place to bring this conversation to an end. And
Awesome.
I really want to thank you for your time and uh, sharing your viewpoints. I think these topics are really important to cover at this time. And I know you've covered it in other
Yeah.
places perhaps, but I really wanted to delve a bit deeper in it today. I'm glad this was like an unprepared
Yeah.
podcast, and I feel like we've really beautifully gone through it in a beautiful way. So thank you, Joel. Um,
Oh,
is it
thank you, brother.
is there anything you'd like to share with people what you're up to now and what you're doing?
It's a lot of people are joining my courses right now. We're in the process of a 9-week class called Multiplicity. So if you join now, you'd receive the 3 recordings of the 3 classes that have happened, and then you could enter for the final 6 and be there live. And there's multiple time zones. So you could do Sundays at noon Mountain Time, or Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. It's just incredible people in there, a lot of older women that could easily be teaching these courses, but really honor me by training with me. And so there's a lot of magical sharing, and I highly recommend checking it out. And I offer, sliding scale, and even for people that can't afford it, you can pay me in the future. I just want to make sure people understand how powerful support is, and to be inside of a circle of people that are vulnerable, authentic, and intending for you to heal. It's beautiful transformations occurring. And then in December, uh 8th and 9th, or 7th and 8th, the Saturday and Sunday in December, there around that date, we're doing an in-person workshop in Missoula, Montana. And just fly in. It'll be downtown Missoula. Just 2 or 3 days of intense training, and Rachel will be involved in some of that as well. And there'll be some in-person private sessions for people who want to stick around and go deeper. So yeah, brother, always good to talk with you, and look forward to you coming over to the States someday and training with us. And yeah, really glad that we're doing these talks, and I hope to do some more with you in the future, man.
Awesome, brother. Likewise. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Awesome. All right.